Today we are doing spinach beef casserole. It is so amazing, so yummy. It's got ground beef, fresh spinach, cream of mushroom soup, which we all make our own. Remember, we've talked about that. I'll link the recipe again. Sour cream. Now, you can make this dairy-free super easy. That's how I do it at the restaurant. But today, I'm going to be going with the Kelowna Supernatural brand sour cream. Their products are to die for. The only way you're going to get a better dairy product is if you own your own cow. I'm not kidding you. Their milk, cottage cheese, sour cream, kefir, whipping cream, whoa, half and half. It's all amazing. So anyway, that is not I'm not a paid affiliate or any of that, whatever that mess is, but it's super good. If you're doing dairy-free, Follow Your Heart is a really good brand for sour cream. Theirs is pretty dadgum tasty. And you can add, you don't have to, but you can add a couple of tablespoons of nutritional yeast. Just kind of helps bring out that dairy flavor, almost kind of a cheesy flavor, more than just using the plain dairy-free sour cream. The other thing you can do as a substitution for dairy-free is a dairy-free yogurt. I use Kite Hill brand, good quality brand. Throw your nutritional yeast in there and it gives you that kind of dairy flavor. So either of those, if you're going dairy-free, a yogurt or a sour cream, a couple tablespoons of nutritional yeast, work out really, really well. But today, for here, we're going to go the dairy route and just kind of leave it at that. So I'm going to turn my camera down. We're going to start out with 1.5 pounds of ground beef, 2 teaspoons of minced garlic, which we've done a million times, and 1/2 cup of Trilogy. So I've got it all in my skillet. We're going to cook that down, get your ground beef browned. As we've talked about in the past, I won't go all the way cooked because this is going to be put together and thrown in the oven for a little bit, so it'll finish cooking. It's not the end of the world if you cook it all the way, but it can tend to kind of dry out and overcook the meat if you get it cooked in the skillet and then put it in the oven. So I go about 85% till it's just barely pink, and then mix it all together. So I'll show you what that looks like. Hang on. Okay, so we've got our Trilogy under here. We've got our 1.5 pounds of ground beef. And remember, as we've talked about in the past, I know 1.5 pounds is kind of a pain in the behind sometimes, but I'll just thaw 2 pounds, break one in half, and I don't thaw them all the way, and pop the other half back in the freezer. This is a half from a prior recipe where I'd had it thawed out. So we're going to brown this with our garlic Trilogy, like I mentioned. Then we'll add mushrooms, Italian seasoning, salt, and pepper. Get that stirred in. Some cream mushroom soup and brown rice. Stir in our cream, our spinach. In the dish it goes. In the oven it goes. Topped with a little cheese. And that's all there is to it. But it's really a tasty recipe. This was something one of my cousins turned me on to. Probably 8 or 9 years ago. Well, longer than that, before I had the restaurant. So anyway, here's my mushrooms. I'm going to show you something I do. This is a package of blue oyster mushrooms that I get from a local farm. I'll vacuum seal them and freeze them, and then pull them out when I need them and chop them up. So that's what we're going to do here in just a second. I'm going to pause this while I brown this meat so y'all don't have to listen to me scream over the popping noises, and then we'll come right back. Okay, the meat is browned, and I kind of use that term lightly. Oh, good, I just threw my spoon on the floor. See if I can kind of bring this over. See, it's almost a tiny bit pinkish, but not really. So, you just don't want to overdo it. I don't drain my meat. I've got some pasture-raised beef that I get from a local farm, and there's not a tremendous amount of fat in it. I like a little bit of fat in mine, so I don't drain it. If you've got maybe a lesser quality beef, or you just can't stand that fat, which, oh my gosh, I'd encourage you to get used to it because it's so good for you, then you can drain that. But again, I don't. Now, here's my mushrooms. Remember, I showed you just a minute ago. I just cut the package open. When I vacuum seal these, I don't bother cutting them up. I mean, I cut them off the, I can't remember what it's called, the little chunk that they grow on, and just stick them in the freezer. And then when I get ready to use them, I'll pull them out and cut them up however I want them cut for the recipe I'm using them in. I don't usually cut them very small. I like mushrooms. Some people cannot hang with them. This is 8 ounces of rough chopped mushrooms. And it's 8 ounces by weight, not by volume. So you want to weigh your mushrooms, not measure them in this aspect. And again, see, I mean, I've got some pieces that are a little bit bigger. Some are pretty small, but I like mushrooms a lot, so I don't worry about it. If you're feeding some folks that are kind of hinky on mushrooms, you could chop these babies up really, really small and kind of more hide them. And that might, you know, get the concerned individuals over the fact that they're eating mushrooms, or maybe they wouldn't even see it. So anyway, dumping the mushrooms in the pan. Now I'm going to pause this so I can wash my googly hands, and we'll move on to the next step. Okay, back over the skillet. There's our mushrooms all cut up. Just kind of mix those in. You can turn the skillet off at this point because now it's just mix things together and it'll go in a casserole dish. So we need a half a teaspoon of Italian seasoning. Ooh, I'm about to screw up. That's a whole teaspoon. Yikes. When it wouldn't have ruined it, it would have just been a little stronger. I was making some soup a minute ago using a teaspoon measure and just snagged the same one. And then you want a half teaspoon of salt and a half teaspoon of pepper. Keep in mind, dairy-free is not as salty as dairy, using real dairy. So you might need to add a little extra salt if you're going dairy-free. So we'll get this stirred in, just get it mixed up real good. I could eat this right here. Ground beef, onions, garlic, mushrooms, seasoning. Yep, I'm all over it. I'm pretty easy to please. All right, then we're going to stir in our cream of mushroom soup. You've seen this, our homemade cream of mushroom soup. I got it out of the freezer, thawed it out. Well, it's not all the way thawed, but it's close. I mean, I can cut it up enough that it'll mix, and then it'll go, you know, like I said, when it goes in the oven, that's going to kind of bring it all together. And then we need to add our rice. So I've got my 1 cup of brown rice that I cooked over here in some bone broth just because I had it. So I'm going to put that in there. My skillet may be just a little small to mix all this. So I'm going to have to be careful or I'm going to have a freaking enormous mess. And nobody wants to clean up a big fat mess. Although I do them a lot. Whoopsie. So we're going to mix this, stir it around real good. Then we'll add our 1 cup of sour cream and 6 ounces of fresh spinach. So I am going to have to get my casserole dish out to mix because there's no way I'm going to get spinach mixed in here. But you know what? I'm going to do this. Here's a little tip for you. If I put the sour cream in first, it's going to cool this down. If I add the spinach first, it won't cool it down, and the heat will help. There's my 6 ounces. Looks like a lot, but you know how spinach does. It wilts to nothing. But the heat will help wilt the spinach so that I can get it stirred a little easier and mixed up. I mean, it's not going to, you know, it's not going to make it totally flat, but it will help be able to stir it in my skillet that I misjudged the size that I need, which, you know, not great, but not the end of the world. I can just get my casserole dish out, which is what I'll do next. Put the rest of the spinach, probably got about half of it in here, in the bottom of the casserole dish. Dump the hot ingredients here in the skillet on top of that, and that'll make it a lot easier to fold in. So we'll let this sit for 1 second, run over and grab my casserole dish, and then we'll keep mixing away. Okay, there's my casserole dish. Got a little spray in there. I'm going to put the rest of my spinach. And this will be the fun part. Y'all, I am weak as a dadgum kitten when it comes to my wrists. I just cannot pick up any weight hardly. I have to get the skillet where it's hanging so that I'm able to handle it. Okay. Yowzer. I'm not a huge fan of mixing it this way. Reason being, I'm going to come back and get some of that out of there in a minute. It's getting heavy. When you mix in the casserole dish, your ingredients tend to wipe off the spray or the oil or whatever you put in there for the non-stick, which can make it a little harder to clean, so that kind of bites. And it's also harder to make sure you're getting everything super mixed, which I don't, can't stand to bite down into a casserole and it's missing half the ingredients because they're all jammed up on the other side because they weren't mixed well. That makes me crazy. So let's see. One thing you could do, and I think I'm fixing to do, because I'm all about using my hands, throw on a pair of gloves and just mix this with my hands. I think I shall. Let me grab, here's my sour cream. I'm going to go ahead and put it in here. Now, I'm using dairy, real dairy, so I'm not doing the nutritional yeast. And again, you don't have to do the nutritional yeast if you're doing dairy-free. But I would encourage you to, because it just kind of amps up the flavor, and it's a great source of vitamin B12, so that's always a good thing. It actually has several of the B vitamins. So, always good to add nutrition to a recipe. All right, I'm going to grab a pair of gloves and then just dive into this. Okay. See, it's still warm, but it's not so hot that I can't handle it. And doing it this way is just going to make it a whole lot easier to make sure everything gets mixed well. And like I mentioned, if I had been paying attention a little better, it's not like I had made this recipe 80,000 times, I would have started with a bigger pan, probably just used my my Dutch oven, because it would have been deeper and I could have mixed in there. But this is going to work. It's not the end of the world. And I certainly didn't want to flip around out of the skillet into the Dutch oven, dirty another dish. Who's got time for all that jazz? Not me. So, y'all, this is so good. We had it, I went and visited my cousin in Texas, in Austin, and she served this for dinner. And I'm like, spinach is practically my love language. It's like my favorite vegetable on the planet. So I was pretty much in heaven. And then it's just got such great flavor. Alrighty. And I think she made a corn, like relish salad. Oh, it was a great dinner, great time. But anyway, so I think I've got it all. Just want to make sure if you do something like this and do it by hand, which I frequently choose to do, get in the corners, make sure, you kind of have a tendency to do like this, and then the corners can wind up being blobs of missing, some ingredients, none of the others. All right, so that's that. I think it's mixed pretty good. One thing I didn't mention, when you're browning your ground beef, make sure it's in little chunks. You don't want big wads of ground beef in there. At least I don't. If that's the way you like it, then knock yourself out. But last thing is we're going to take, I shredded some cheese. So I've got this Grazier's is so amazing raw Monterey Jack. You can use Monterey Jack or mozzarella. You could actually use cheddar if you wanted to, but I just used what I have, and this time I had the Monterey Jack. So got that all shredded up. And you just sprinkle this on the top. Ooh, baby. And with a dairy-free cheese, I love the Violife brand. Their mozzarella works really well. That's what I use at the restaurant. So get that on there, and then we're going to preheat our oven to 375. We'll cover this, and I'm going to cover it with the lid. If you don't have a lid to your dish, you can put tinfoil on it. Cook it for 15 minutes. Take the lid off, and then 10 more minutes. See if I can flip this up without wrecking everything. Oh, there's that window. Let me turn over here. Y'all, it's so good. And I promise I'm going to get a picture of this at the end. Like I said I was going to do in the last video, and I forgot. But that's all there is to it. This is a super easy, all-in-one dish, really flavorful, deep nutrition kind of supper. You could serve just that, or you could put a salad on the side, and it's amazing. So, be back for a little quick when it comes out of the oven, and then we'll pick it out for supper. So, stay tuned. Well, here we are, the finished product. Look at that. Oh my gosh, it's so amazing. Here's another thing that one reason I don't like mixing in the dish, because that's what you wind up with. You know, when you're stirring, it kind of slops around, and then it causes that. Doesn't affect the food, obviously. Just makes the cleanup a little more exciting, which we all need exciting cleanup. So anyway, y'all give it a shot. Spinach beef casserole. It is phenomenal. See you in the next video.